And welcome back to the Livingston Parish News Podcast. My name is McHugh David, publisher and editor of the news. Appreciate you guys joining us this afternoon. We are joined here by the relative pallor couple of Restoration One, David and Marissa Hofstetter. Mr. David is on your right, Marissa on the viewer's left. Hope you guys are having a good day. We did talk a little bit out there in the lobby, I guess you can say. But appreciate you joining us today. I know the audience does as well. So first and foremost, just want you to introduce yourselves. We have a couple here, as the viewers can see, so it's going to be fun. We're going to have a good one today. And just tell us a little bit about yourselves and your family, and then we're going to get into the business.
Sure. Ladies first.
Okay. I'm Marissa Hofstetter, and like McHugh said, we're with Restoration One of East Baton Rouge. We've been open coming up on our 2-year anniversary in September, and my work history is in elementary education. So I was an elementary teacher for 7 years, and whenever we decided to go on this business venture, about, 8 months into after we opened, I finished out that school year that I was working at the time, and it was time for us to, make new hires. We needed a salesperson, someone who focused on sales and marketing, and that was just the right part for me to play. And so I've been doing this for about a year now, and it's been wonderful, and I haven't looked back ever since.
So an interesting way to get into the business, from that educational side, but I suppose that goes a lot with marketing and sales and that kind of thing. And we'll come back to that in a minute when we start talking about the business. David, yourself.
Sure.
Introduce yourself.
Yep. David Hofstetter. Like Marissa said, we've been in it almost 2 years now. I'm full of crazy ideas and often really off the wall things. And kind of when my brain gets going, it's like, hey, we're going to do something bigger. We're not going to do it at all. So a little bit about my history. I graduated from LSU. I went to work for a small company called General Electric. They've been around for a few years, and very quickly worked my way up the management chain through a training program. After about less than a year in the program, I was promoted to become a branch manager, at which point I took over about a $20 million P&L. We had a great sales team, a great product we sold, and really, really jump-started my business career from understanding the analytics of the business to reading the profit and loss, and managing people was really the big thing. Sometime around the flood in 2016, our house flooded here in Denham. We weren't as heavily affected as a lot of people. We had a couple inches of water in our home, so be that as may, you still had to go up 2 feet sheetrock, that kind of thing. That's actually what got my career started in residential construction. Something about tearing your house out and cutting your floors out with a saw just really gets the construction juices going, I guess. And about 2 months after the flood, I went to work for a regional home builder, and that's where I discovered an absolute passion for residential construction, how things are built. Hey, what's behind that wall? That really just fascinated and fueled me. So about a year and a half into that, we were approached by a franchise broker, and I won't get too in depth into it, but that's how the opportunity of Restoration One came around. So in September, will be officially 2 years of our first job, and it has been absolutely life-changing for us, and hopefully as life-changing for our customers that deal with us, because when we get that call, they're usually not having a very good day.
So hearing him talk, I can't imagine how he dragged you into this. And that's very interesting. That I like the way you put that passion. You can tell, you can hear it in your voice. So coming back to you real quick, one of the things that you hear, I mean, he talks about it, is just that wanting to know every little thing about that. But I'm also hearing, you've got these big ideas over here. I'm guessing a little bit of implementation over here. So tell us a little bit about y'all's, working together. What's that like?
I'll let you go first.
This may be a dangerous question.
No, it's just very much a question. The answer to we're still figuring out.
Yes.
Okay. We've answered that a few times here. I guess talking with chamber members, and folks are like, hey, the dynamic of you being around your spouse 24 hours a day, literally, it's either with the business or at home. That's very much a dynamic we're still trying to and figure out. And I don't know if we'll ever perfect it, but we're definitely working on it. It's a very interesting dynamic. And actually, as someone put it to us in a chamber group that we're in, it's all family business. We're not the first people to ever go through it. So we've relied and gotten some feedback from other folks that have been doing this for a lot longer than us. And it's like, hey, how do you make it work? So It's picking your battles, but it's also understanding the big picture. Hey, I just got home after a 12-hour day, but the questions that she's asking me isn't because she just is being nosy. It's something that we need to talk about and she understands so that she can take that knowledge and then go implement it in the field. So,
yeah. And I'll add on to that because he said, being together all day long, but our roles that we play, we're not always together. Sometimes we are, but most days we don't see each other once we leave the house until we're back home again. So that's why the communication is so key, especially if we have not seen each other all day. It's being able to put time aside, like you said, pick your battles. What's the most important thing to move on to tomorrow? And then just kind of cutting that off. But like you said, we're still, working on that and taking advice for anyone who has any.
Well, I imagine it's something that you'll continue to work on. And that's good. As long as you're working on it, it will improve, right?
Yep.
So, when you're talking about this franchise specifically, I mean, I don't know if y'all had choices or not, but, you said you had that passion. What was it about the pitch from this particular franchise that had you saying that I want to do that?
This is going to sound so bizarre. And if Gary, the CEO, is listening, he's probably going to have a nice little laugh. Honestly, when I was first approached by the broker, after looking at the website and after maybe 10 minutes on the phone with this broker, I was hooked. I was so hooked to the fact, and I've told her this a million times and she can repeat it, I didn't tell her about this opportunity for several weeks. It was so engaging with me, and I knew that it's something that I wanted to do after that first phone call, that I said, you know what? It's almost like someone taught me once, hey, if you really want to buy something, give it a few weeks. If that itch is still there and it still makes sense, then go ahead and get whatever it is or order the service or whatever it is you're looking for. So I tried to take that advice, and it was like, you know what? After 10 to 14 days of this thing just burning a hole in me, I almost felt guilty for not bringing it to her first. But I also didn't want to just, hey, let's start a business.
Right.
That's not just something you have conversation over dinner about, right? We had loosely discussed up to that point, hey, maybe we've got visions of business ownership one day. We have no idea what we would want to do. So those conversations didn't really go further than that. So the first time it was presented to me, I'm like, there's no way I can walk in the door, set my bag down and go, hey, I want to start a restoration company. Truthfully, at that point, we really didn't even know what that entailed. It was one phone call. So yeah, it was a several month process. We went through, it took about 65, 70 days from that first phone call to working on the financing and getting everything together. The great thing about Restoration One is they don't just allow anyone to purchase a franchise. I mean, they vet you. They want to know your experience. Their thing is, and I love it, you don't have to have a background in construction to be successful in this thing. Hiring the right people definitely matter, but they're not just going to go around selling a franchise territory to anyone who just has the money. So that was impressed upon us really early on in the process. So it was an interview. It was an absolute interview. And after meeting so many franchise owners between our annual meeting and just networking, I mean, these are stand-up folks. These aren't just people who had the money to go pay the franchise fee and just, hey, good luck.
Right. So you're meeting these people there. It's getting you even more pumped up about all this. Before we ask you what it was like when he came to you with it, when you were thinking it through and saying, okay, this is something that I want, I need to bring it to my wife, what were you thinking? I mean, what was it? Were you pumped? Were you a little nervous?
Yeah. So from what I can recollect, so that's been a little over 2 years at this point. I think our journey started somewhere in about May of 18, and then we executed everything around August. So in the I guess days leading up to that dinner conference, I knew I wanted to do it over dinner. That was the one time where she was teaching at the time. Like that was our one time. Oftentimes that conversation would go about 15 straight minutes of her telling me about her day, and this kid did this, and you won't believe what that kid said. So I really enjoyed those. But at this dinner conversation, I took point. I said, look, we've loosely talked about business ownership. At the time, I was, pretty interested in making a move, didn't know what. And it was the perfect storm and the full culmination of this thing that I guess I just came out and we just talked about it. I said, hey, I've been researching this for a few weeks. Here's what it is. Here are the steps. Here's the industry it's in. I'm already in construction. I think this could work. And it was just a dialogue from there. Like I said, it took about 65 or 70 days to work everything out. You had to turn in projections. I mean, it was very much a vetted couple months there where they were making sure, hey, this is the right fit, and conversely, is this the right fit for us?
So let's take that dinner conversation from your perspective. What, you know, obviously there was a regular dinner type conversation. I know the post day for the teacher. You know, what was it like for him to, as he said, take point and say, hey, you know, there's this opportunity. I'm pumped about it, and here it is.
Well, I definitely wanted to know more. You know, tell me more about this. What do you know? What have you learned? What will we be doing? All of those, you know, initial questions at first. But I never had a single doubt in my mind. And he knows that I have 110% confidence in anything that he does, and especially anything that we take on together. We don't ever begin something planning to fail. Of course, no one does, but we're going to do anything and everything in our power to be successful at what we set our minds to. If we have control over it, we're going to do what's in our power to make it successful. And so I didn't think he was crazy. Of course, I just wanted to make sure that it was the right choice, which led to lots of prayer, and just making sure that even though it was a very exciting opportunity for both of us career-wise and for our future and for our family, that wasn't the right one. We didn't want to jump on this first opportunity just because it sounded really good. And so I think that there were many signs that we, you know, were given that this is the right path for you right now. And like you said, we definitely feel very confident that was the right choice at this point.
So can I add one of those signs? It's an incredible story. We were doing a Bible study at the time, and this was about halfway through the process. And the take-home assignment, if you will, from that Bible study at that time was, our homework was Psalm 51. And if you go and read that, the title of that is A Prayer for Restoration. I mean, there were these little nuggets that were just dropped right in our lap, and we kept on this path. And I'll say this, once you sign that agreement with Restoration One, they have this fantastic 2-week training where you go to Waco, their corporate office, and you spend 2 weeks, 10 days with the guys. There's a Restoration One location in Waco. You got to go out with the operation that was already running. So you were getting the corporate perspective. You were getting, hey, this is what I own, and here's what you can expect. I mean, it was just time incredibly well spent. But the most comforting thing, and the last nail in the coffin, so to speak, as far as we know we're in the right place, is the vice president comes out in the first 30 minutes of the class and says, hey guys, everything else aside, let's get to know one another. We're about to spend 2 weeks with each other. Let's find out who we are. Let's start from the left and end on the right, and everyone take about 5 or 10 minutes. Who are you? And the first several people that went all gave this incredible testimony about how God had led them to this opportunity. And it was at that point that said, you know what, if I had any doubt that we weren't in the right place, that just erased all of it. So, I mean, it's been very much a spiritual journey for us, but life-changing, definitely.
Well, I mean, you know, and that's very, very fascinating because, you know, it sounds to me like y'all can pull that experience forward and you had some camaraderie there to get trained for this job. So, I mean, let's do that. Let's transition. So we've talked about leading up to this business. Suddenly you're spending 2 weeks in Waco. Want you to talk about that just briefly, like what it was like to experience that. You kind of gave us an overview, but maybe what a day or two was like, and then I want to jump into what you do.
Okay, sure. So the first week was a lot of, I'm going to call it simple stuff, QuickBooks, your financials, how are you going to track invoices? The software you're going to be estimating these jobs out of, it's called Xactimate. That's very much an industry-specific thing. So we spent several days. There was a 2.5-day course on sales. Restoration One does a fantastic job of getting you ready to run through a brick wall and go ready to sell ice to an Eskimo. I mean, it's hey, here's the playbook and here's how you go implement it. So I'll give you one really specific day in the field. So Restoration One has this warehouse, and inside of that warehouse is a flood house. A flood house consists of, 700-800 square feet of a framed-in structure that resembles maybe a kitchen, a bathroom, and a bedroom. And what they do overnight is they drill holes in the walls and they stick a garden hose, turn it on, and they flood this flood house. Imagine being inside of a metal building. Inside of that metal building is a structure similar to a home. So they flood this thing and they get it soaking wet. And our job the next day is to use the tools that they've shown us, they've taught us how to use, the software that we're tracking these jobs, and it's like, okay, and these guys role play. So the folks we've been receiving the training from are now the customer. Okay. And they say, okay, hey, I'm Jay. And you're like, hey, I'm David. I'm with Restoration One. Hey, can you tell me a little bit about what's going on? Yeah, man, I woke up and there's water all over the floor. So there's very much this fundamental role play, and you're doing it in front of 10 of your colleagues. So, and everyone is on the spot. We didn't know that was coming. So then this guy, Jay, who's one of the field consultants, would look at the next guy and go, hey, what are you going to do about this? There's water all over the floor. So he was very much intentionally putting us on the spot. And the first few minutes was sort of uncomfortable. People were like, okay, I get it. And Jay his face doesn't change, like, hey, no, we're locked into this. This is what you're going to be doing.
Right.
So that was probably the most beneficial thing that I saw, was because, look, when someone calls you and they've got water coming from the ceiling, they're having a terrible day.
Yeah.
90% of what we do is showing up and reassuring them, hey, we've got the qualified team. I'm here. We're here to take care of you. As much as it's probably not going to be possible, why don't you go sit on the couch and let us do what we do? Right. Of course, interject as you have questions, but we're here to take care of you. Let us get going. So from a training standpoint, that was one of the biggest takeaways that I had from those 2 weeks over there.
Did you go?
No, I was teaching at the time.
Okay, you were still in teaching mode. Okay.
Right, exactly.
So you had to bring some of that training back for her, right?
What was really cool at the time was not only have we started a business, but look, I just spent 2 weeks there, and now it's up to me to come and teach our team, which again, she was teaching at the time. This was in August, so she still had a full school year left. But it's like, no matter who I hire, they may or may not have this industry experience, but it's really up to me to take what Restoration One taught us at that corporate training, maybe put a few spins on it, but for the most part, it's going to be about what they taught us. So we still had room to tweak execution and production, and Restoration One does a fantastic job of that. They don't bother you. They don't call and say, hey, we see you're doing things one way. If you're rolling and you know everything's coming in on time, it's very much hands off, which I appreciate a lot, for sure.
So you're coming back. You're getting into this flow, and you're trying to find the good people, like you said, trying to train them, kind of waiting that extra year. You know, what was that? Those first, call it, 90 days. I see the smile. You know what I'm asking. It's that it's so tumultuous, but it's new. Tell us a little bit about what you're feeling, and then I'm gonna ask you what it was like to see him kind of come home.
So I'll let her tell the second half of the story. Okay. But the very first job we ever got, it seems like of all the Restoration One owners we've talked to, they all have somewhat of a similar story. Like, we get home from training, our equipment shows up, the van shows up, everything's ordered, it's good. Then the phone rings, and it's almost like a Ricky Bobby moment. And like, what do I do with my hands? I'm not sure what to do. And these guys told us at the corporate training, it doesn't matter what we tell you. I promise you, the first time the phone rings, you're going to call us and be like, I don't remember what to do. So we had kind of that moment. At the time, I was building my mom a house in Walker, and we were at the very end of the project. At 6 a.m., we started pouring the driveway. So, man, we're putting the final touches on her house that I'd been working on for about 4 months. And at about 9 a.m., about the fourth concrete truck shows up. Everything's rolling. Everything's going well, and the phone rings. I answer it. Here it is. The first opportunity and first phone call we get, I'm pouring a driveway, trying to finish the house that I'm building for my mom. And I just remember thinking to myself, this couldn't have happened at a worse time. But truthfully, it taught me a few different things. Is number one, hey, it's go time. You've just invested the last couple months to get this thing going. It doesn't matter if you're in the middle of boiling crawfish or what you're doing. This is a 24/7 business. Now, this was at 9 a.m., which falls kind of in that 8 to 5 thing. But so anyway, I get there. It's at an apartment complex. And inside of the lobby, I see 3 of my competitors sitting down. So I walk in, wasn't really sure what was going on. I go up to the front desk, and the woman says, hey, are you here for unit 100? I said, yes, I am. She said, have a seat. And that's when I turned around, and here are 3 of my competitors. So there's 4 of us. This homeowner lived in Florida. The apartment unit was for sale and under contract, and the maintenance supervisor walked past it and saw water coming out of the door. So the tenant owner is nowhere to be. He's in Miami. And so anyway, we all realize we're here. The maintenance guy shows up with the key. All 4 of us walk to this unit. And I just remember thinking to myself, man, this is my first one. Like, I didn't need the added pressure of having my competitors here because I still don't really know what I'm doing. I had an idea. So anyway, we get inside of the unit, and one of the guys says, all right, guys, so how are we going to do this? Y'all just want to walk around and each do your own thing? And I kind of played tough because I wasn't going to come out and say, hey, man, this is the first job I've ever been on. So anyway, I get to going, and I realize I remember something that they had taught us in training, and that typically with water jobs, you don't write estimates. If you're going to file an insurance claim, the insurance doesn't want you to overestimate on the front end what it's going to cost. They only want you to bill for precisely the line items that you completed. Keeps them honest, keeps us honest. And I just remember these guys were sketching and writing the estimate. So I stepped out and I called, they call a field consultant, someone with Restoration One. That's your lifeline, especially when you get started. And I call him and I explained to him what's going on. And he said, David, what's the customer's number? Let's call him. So I'm in the parking lot. These three guys are still estimating the job. We call the customer. My field consultant just holds my hand through it and explains to him, hey, we're not going to write an estimate. You need to file a claim. We're going to take care of you. And the customer is just eating out of his hand. Yeah, okay, whatever you recommend. So in my mind, I'm thinking, man, I'm out here in the parking lot. These guys are going to write an estimate, turn it in. I've already got the job. So we got the document signed. We got it going. So I want to turn it over to Marissa for her perspective because it's a pretty cool and interesting story. So I'm by myself. I hadn't hired anyone yet. So I start tearing open sheetrock and doing this stuff, and I'll turn it over to Marissa.
So I got a call or maybe a text at the end of the day, and he, like you said, all the excitement, everything going on. Once he got there and started actually doing the demo, he realized he needed other tools and other supplies that he didn't have with him at the time. And so he needed me to come deliver them to him. So I had just gotten off of work. I loaded up all of the things that he needed. I got there. I start, we're both cutting out sheetrock, the whole demo process, which I have no problem with at all. I mean, like you said, our house flooded. I'd done it then before. I love to refinish furniture and remodel things. So, I'm no stranger to that type of work. Maybe not that labor intensive, but that was what it was all about. We both did our very first job together, and that was less than 2 years ago. And now to see the team that we have, I mean, it's very, very humbling. We talk about it often. We just look back and say, yeah, you remember that first job we ever had, and then where we are now in such a short amount of time. It's just been great.
It was a bonding moment.
Yeah.
It was very much, hey, we're in this together. This was my crazy idea. I need you to come help me cut sheetrock and pull this stuff out. And truthfully, at the time, when we just started, we were running the business out of our house. So I had this van packed. I mean, I had it full of equipment. And it was full of equipment that I didn't need.
Right.
So it was a really quick learning experience of making a checklist. Okay, now that I've been through this for the first time, these 2 shelves full of things that we may use on a job one day are not your everyday tools and things that you're going to need. So it was very much baptism by fire. Hey, let's jump right in it. She was there for about 3 or 4 hours after teaching an entire day. And she was helping me. Everything from pull sheetrock to bag it. We were spraying antimicrobials. I mean, we were in the full PPE. I mean, it was very much a moment that says, hey, now we're in this.
Yeah.
The next conversation was, hey, you need to hire some help. Because I just worked an entire day teaching 9-year-olds, and I can't pull these 2 shifts. So anyway, that was our very first job, and I'm telling you, since then it has been some of the most gratifying things we've ever done in our life is helping people. Another thing about that job that was just meant to be, I went through the challenge with competitors being there, but also the unit was vacant. It's a lot more challenging to work into someone's home as their contents are in the way, their bedding, their clothes. I mean, you've got to move and cover that stuff. This place was totally vacant, under contract to be sold the next day. Another quick one about that. We're halfway through the demo, and I get a knock at the door. It was the buyer's agent.
Right.
Had no clue any of this was going on.
Right.
So they're supposed to close, I think, within 10 days or something. It's during the inspection period. She flings the door open, and here we are. We've got saws and vacuums, and she had to have assumed she was in the wrong unit. But after talking with her, I mean, so there were just so many introductions into that first one. I was just like, all right, here it is, make it happen.
Yep.
Sure. And yeah, that's very fascinating. Especially if the closing was the next day. Talking about what you were saying with learning experiences and that kind of thing. In this kind of work, and I want to talk about this real quick before we kind of get into what y'all do. Like some of the things. Is there any two that are the same? I mean, you learn as you go. You've learned as you've gone, obviously, and you keep learning. Like you said, y'all are working together to figure out your business and your business relationship. But when you're talking about these gutting houses and these, I don't want to call them disasters. The flood was a disaster, but I guess these in-home disasters, any two the same?
Most of them are okay. We've never had two totally identical. With depending on what type of loss it is, assuming it's a plumbing leak or AC pan overflow. This time of year, it's really hot. Those ACs are running a lot. You get a lot of the same type of loss, but I mean, I could sit here and recall to you 10 water losses, 10 jobs. The 10 may have had somewhat of an overlap on either the way the source, what caused it, but the outcome is almost always entirely different. So you have an idea of what to expect. The customer will say, hey, I've got water coming from my ceiling. And then you may ask them a few questions just to let them know, hey, we know what we're talking about. This is what we do. And they may say, well, I think it's coming from the water heater. And most of the time the answer is, I have no idea. I haven't even been up there. I just walked in and it is raining in my living room.
Right.
So most jobs are not identical from one to the other, but there are a lot of the same repeating characteristics. If you walk in and see water stains, you can say, okay, that's either a roof leak, maybe there's a drain above it, a vent, plumbing vent that goes through the roof, something at the joint may have become loose, the glue may have rotted out, something, and now you've got a little bit of water pass through. The ones we get, it's almost like this adrenaline takes over, is when you show up and there's standing water and it's coming out of the wall and it won't stop. At that point, you probably have a supply line, something that's pressurized, and now there's a hole in it and it's running water and it won't stop until you go into the side of the house and you turn it off. So no two jobs are totally the same. Ton of overlapping characteristics though, for sure.
So you could say, that sort of the base root causes are usually something you can figure out. It's what comes after that may not necessarily be the same.
Right. Absolutely. So that's where you get into, hey, how much did this affect? We had one about 6 months ago. It was incredible. Water heater in the attic, supply line where the cold came in, squirt about 30 feet across the attic. So there was so much pressure in that supply line that whenever the loss occurred, I mean, you had some damage right below the heater, but you've got a living room and then a bedroom 40 feet away on the other side of the house that's flooded. And it's because that water shot from the water heater across the insulation, over the Christmas tree and over everything else, and it hit this room on the opposite side of the house. I mean, there's some, they can be somewhat bizarre when you get there and you're like, how on earth did this get wet, but this room that shares a wall right underneath where the water heater was is unaffected? So it's a root cause analysis in a lot of cases, which is part of the chase. You're trying to chase the leak. Hey, where'd it come from? What was another thing? Kind of a game we play with our technicians in the field is, guess the source. We'll kind of play it internally. We don't really make it, too public, but in our minds, we're thinking, hey, who's the first one that's going to find what's going on? And that's a game that we play to break up the unfortunate monotony of sometimes showing up and people are freaking out. So we try to have a little fun with it too.
Sure. And I mean, you're trying to calm down those customers who, as you said, have had a pretty bad day and are continuing to have a bad day until y'all finish your work. So we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about what y'all do, maybe some of the more interesting cases you've had, and then we're going to talk a little bit about how you market all that. We'll be right back. And we're back. We're going to talk a little bit more about specifically what Restoration One does. So going to let you take it away, sir. Give us, first on your shirt, says it right there, water damage experts. Tell us all about that and get into not too much, just a little bit on some of the big things y'all like to hit.
Yeah, sure. So water damage experts, we are a construction contractor licensed by the state. We specialize in damage caused from water, fire, smoke. We do some odor, and then we're also a licensed mold remediation contractor with the state as well. So typically anywhere you have mold, you've got some source of moisture. So a lot of it is centered around water. We do some fire work as well, but most of our book of business comes from either mold remediation or damage caused from some type of water loss. Your dishwasher overflowed, your water heater has busted and wet everything. Of course, groundwater flood like 2016. So again, construction contractor specializing in water, fire, mold, and smoke damage.
So hearing all that, I've looked at y'all's website. It's really a huge list when you start breaking those things down. How do you pull that together? How do you market that?
So yes, like you said, there are a long list of services that either are related to those things or just aren't as common of calls that we get. And so, my job is to make people aware of what we do. We do not have a tangible product. I am not selling you something that you can buy from me and take home with you. So it's more of, I want you to remember me and remember us and what we do and who to call when that emergency strikes. No one is planning for their water heater to burst in their attic. No one plans for a flood. But you can be prepared by, saving our number, following us on Facebook or Instagram. We are constantly posting pictures from jobs and different types of work that we do. And so just keeping us top front of mind and knowing who to call in those types of situations. So I'm, mostly going out and spreading the word and educating people. So a lot of people who can refer work to us, I'm going out and educating them on the services that we provide, the type of customer service that we guarantee, and how we can work together to provide that, top-notch experience for someone who, like David has said, repetitively is going through a very bad situation, having a very tough day. So whether it's a plumber who gets called out because the leak is happening and they want to find the source, or it's a roofer because there's a tree fell on a house, an insurance agent who wants to provide that service for their client making a claim. It could be a property manager who's overseeing apartments, hotels, multiple properties. So anyone who comes across these issues frequently, they can also refer us and know that they're referring their customer to someone who's going to take care of them.
So give us real quick the BNI spiel. I know you're in BNI. Everybody gets about a minute, and yours is pretty good. So let's hear it. So
I am Marissa Hofstetter with Restoration One of East Baton Rouge. We are a remediation contractor who provides 24/7 emergency services for water, fire, smoke, and mold for residential and commercial properties.
So the interesting thing about all that is if you're looking for the tangibility, I guess you can say, you should follow these guys on Facebook. They're posting a lot of really cool videos and photos of some of the things they do. Sometimes they look a little terrifying. The first time I ever looked on your Facebook page, I saw y'all had something sealed off and it looked like a ICU ward in a hospital. I was like, oh my gosh. But tell us a little bit about, and then we're going to jump back to a specific project maybe, and you might describe one of those, but tell us a little bit about, when you were sitting there thinking about how am I going to market this, and you were like, you know what? Some of these people have probably experienced this or they've been through that. I'm just going to throw these pictures out. Tell us what that thought process was like.
I'm sorry, I did not really catch the question.
No, it's okay. So, I mean, you're in the middle you're marketing your business, right? And y'all have a lot of projects out there in the field and you're getting pictures back. And like I said, some of them might catch people unawares, but y'all are doing your job. Y'all are doing the good work. What made you think, I need to snap these pictures? People see this damage, they get disheartened. I want to show them that we can fix it. Was that the mindset or what was the deal?
Yes. So there are so many people who know names of restoration companies, but they really don't have a clear understanding of what it is they do every day. Or they think you only call us when there's a hurricane or a major flood like in 2016. They don't realize it's things that happen every day inside of your home. And so those pictures and those videos really make it relatable, and it makes that light bulb go off and say, oh, well, I didn't realize I could call them if my dishwasher floods my kitchen. I didn't know I could call them if the turkey catches on fire during Thanksgiving. So it's those, it makes it real. They can see the photos, they can see the videos. And so hopefully when an emergency like that happens, they remember to call us.
So talking about, and it may be a turkey setting on fire, might be one of your more interesting projects, but give us 30 seconds on a project that you've had. I mean, you don't have to give specifics, like an address or anything, but tell us a little bit about a project where you walk in and you said, oh, this is going to be a doozy.
I've got the perfect one. So February of 2019, this one is ingrained and I've never forgotten about it. LSU basketball was playing a midweek SEC game against Florida, so it was a hot ticket. Buddy of mine called me at about 3. He had just run into a couple of tickets coming from the North Shore. He said, hey, do you want to go? Absolutely, I want to go watch LSU beat up on Florida. So tip was 7, 8 o'clock, somewhere in there. About 6:30, the phone rings. And it is a referral partner of ours, a plumber, who had an in with this apartment complex actually close to LSU's campus. At the time, we're hustling, trying to get in front of as many communities as we can. So it was a great opportunity. So I show up, and I should have known when I saw my buddy, the plumber, come out with knee-high boots, rubber boots, gloves, and a full-face respirator, that something wasn't right.
Oh, jeez.
So I walk up to the unit, and he's covered in what appears to be mud. Wasn't mud.
Oh, no.
We walk in, and the issue was a clogged toilet. Something wasn't flushing. Unfortunately, the pressure that was below this, and I'm not a plumber, but maybe these guys can relate to this, the pressure that was below it, as soon as he snaked that line, went straight up.
Yikes.
So sewage, or as we call Category 3 water in our industry.
What a PG term.
So I got within about 30 feet of the unit and had to turn around and go get my own respirator. I mean, this was awful. And I guess when you consider an apartment community that has a couple hundred toilets tied to maybe a few different trunk lines, it's probably not hard for something, toilet paper, a diaper, maybe wipes, clogged pipes, baby wipes or something to get stuck. Well, that back pressure caused it to shoot right back up, and it went off like a geyser. And it hit everything from the ceiling. The entire bathroom was ground zero, and it tracked all the way from the bathroom to the front door. So in our world, Category 3 water, which is grossly contaminated, anything it touches has to go. And I made the basketball game, but it was only after about an hour and a half of saying, you know what, there's only so much we can do tonight. We're going to have to get some sleep and come tackle this tomorrow. So kind of a gross story, but Category 3 or sewage, man, those are tough. I mean, you've got to have the stomach for it. And luckily, our team, man, they're kind of some strange cats. They love it. You know, anytime we get a Category 3 loss, they're all about it. So it's, I don't know if it's like playing in science class with them or something, but man, they love it. And anyway, so that's a story that definitely sticks out. It was just disgusting, but that's a service we can offer. Category 3 backup. Someone's got to do it.
So clearly, y'all have been through everything.
I guess that everything tag sometimes can be, as soon as I say I have been through everything, I'm going to get a phone call tomorrow over the weekend for something we've never had. So, we've definitely seen our fair share. I'm positive there's still some things out there that we haven't experienced yet, but it's been a fun couple years. We love serving the community. We're local, so we take pride in that for sure.
So how do you market Category 3 water?
Oh, put her on the spot. How do you market Category 3 water?
What is your PG marketing for Category 3 water?
Well,
sewage backup, I guess?
Just,
Yeah.
Hey,
I'm sorry to put you on the spot. I mean,
that's the term that's on our website and on our marketing materials, so we'll go with that.
The word, I'm just going to say, the word feces is used a lot. So that's hey, if unfortunately, because if we say, hey, Category 3, that's not going to resonate with very many people outside of our industry or insurance. They're going to say, look, if your toilet blows up or if there's feces everywhere, we can handle that. So maybe we just came up with that pitch and she'll start using it. But those are always interesting.
I expect to hear that at BNI next week. So talking about what's on your website, let's wrap this up real quick. You got a Facebook page, you got a website. Tell us your web address, give us your phone number. How people can get in contact with you. Take it away.
So our local website is restoration1, the number 1, of eastbatonrouge.com. We are on Facebook, Restoration 1 of East Baton Rouge. Same on Instagram. Our telephone number is 225-277-0807. And any of those would be the best way to get in touch with us.
And you're the man who picks up the phone?
All right. So we actually, when it rings, as it just did, it rings to both of our phones. So we're growing, and we're going to get to a point where we've got someone in the office 24, not 24/7, but during the main business hours that, answers the phone. But right now, it comes straight to us. So if you call us, you're going to get ownership. It comes directly to us. My phone just went off here a few seconds ago. So you're going to get one of us, definitely.
Well, again, Marissa, David, thank you both for joining us. And as you heard, they're in it. They're in it to win it. And they're going to pick up the phone if you call. So again, David and Marissa Hofstetter of Restoration One, thank you guys for joining us this afternoon. We do appreciate it. And again, my name is McHugh David, publisher and editor of the news. Appreciate you guys joining us for the Livingston Parish News podcast. Please remember we're on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, and YouTube. We are once a week in print on Thursdays at $7 a month. It comes to your post office box or your mailbox. We're also online, just like them, www.livingstonparishnews.com. Check us out there. We will see you next time. Hope you have a great day.